You know, folks, one question that's been asked of me by some people since I've talked about Season 8, and I'm sure other people have talked about Season 8, the one thing that's been asked of me, and I'm pretty sure it's been asked of them, is what do we think Season 9's villains are going to be? Or who do we think it's going to be? You know, pretty much this year we already have an established villain or antagonist, not so much a villain, but an antagonist in Chancellor Naysayer. And we potentially have an antagonist, villain, if you will, at the end of this season by the name of Cozy Glow, from what I understand. And in the middle of the season, we also have the return of Chrysalis as well. And of course, we have the return of Tirek, possibly in the finale of this current season. But now people wonder, who are the villains of the next season? Who will the villains be for Season 9? Well, I've already kind of talked about this and alluded to it. I've kind of basically said that you need to have a villain list. You need to have an established antagonist that you could build your entire season around and up towards when you get to the finale. Because like I said, the finale, if this indeed Season 9 is going to be the last season, then this would be the best time, or that would be the best time, to do a movie finale. It would be the best time to do a movie finale for the series. I mean, you're building up to this point. The series has been going on for about a decade now. It's probably a good time to let this happen. Probably a good time to let this happen. Now, like I said, as far as the villains go, I kind of touched upon this already. And I touched upon the fact that I think Silverquill, MLP Silverquill, who is currently going to be at BabsCon this weekend, brought it up best in his little collab he did with I Love KP a lot, who also is going to be at BabsCon, when they talked about villains old and new. Silverquill said at the end of the video that one villain or antagonist he believes that should be brought in is G1's Majesty. He brought this up because Majesty back in G1 was looked at as a very powerful unicorn. In other words, kind of on the level of a Celestia almost. So kind of being on the level of a Celestia. So kind of being on that level of Celestia, Majesty was looked at as a very powerful character back in G1, whether she appeared in the show, in books, what have you. And Silverquill brought her up as being one that you could bring in as a new villain, or at least as a antagonist that, like Naysayer right now, believes what she is doing is right. That stands by her beliefs and believes what she's doing is correct. In other words, totally eliminating all antagonistic villainous threats from Equestria. So potentially she could be a villain in Season 9, and one that, like I mentioned in one video, you could use the ending of the second part of your potential 2-part premiere. You could use the ending of that as the foundation to build through every other episode of the 26 episode run, build through and to the finale, which again, I feel a movie length finale is the best direction to go in. So Majesty could be looked at as a possible new major threat. The villains I said that could be associated with her are the kind of villains and rogues that have been foiled in the past by the main 6, the main 7. Characters like Chrysalis, characters like Habanero, characters like Garble, if you will, Lightning Dust, if you want to throw her in there, Wind Rider, And heck, if he's not redeemed by this season, Chancellor Naysayer. Heck, even throw Tyrek in there if you want to. The point is, though, as I said in one video, you can have Majesty be the catalyst, be the fire that ignites the flame to unite all these antagonists that have been foiled by the main 6, main 7, bring them together as one unit to go up against the main 6, main 7, and get the revenge. Heck, you can throw in Cozy Glow if she doesn't get redeemed as well. The point is, we don't really know, besides potentially Tyrek, Chrysalis, Naysayer, and Cozy Glow, who would be the villains. I mean, yes, it would be nice to see some rogues, antagonistic foils, if you will, be brought back to try to seek revenge, if you will, to get payback on those that spoiled their plans, foiled their attempts at glory or control or power. It'd be nice to see Lightning Dust come back, Wind Rider come back. Heck, we have a rival of rarities coming back this year in an episode, from what I understand. It'd be nice to see her come back. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. But it'd be nice to see someone like Sally Parameo, whatever her name is. The rival of Rarity come back in Season 9. I mean, from what I understand, she's coming back in an episode this season to go up against Rarity. Whether or not she'll be redeemed in that episode this season is hard to say. But the potential to bring back other antagonistic foils, villains, rivals, rogues, maybe not. It may not be a big list, if you will. It may not be a huge list, but it's pretty decent. I mean, you can bring the Flim Flam brothers in, unless they've been redeemed, and from what I last seen, they haven't. You can bring Iron Will in. I mean, like I said, if you want to bring in a G1 character like Majesty and at the end of the second part of your 2-part premiere in Season 9, make her be the catalyst, the reasoning certain villains and foes and foils, antagonists, if you will, all brought together, that's one way of doing it. I mean, think about the team that she could comprise to go up against the main 6, main 7. Like I said, she could comprise a team of Caminero. She could comprise a team of Caminero, Iron Will, Lightning Dust, if you want to use her again, Rin Rider, if you will, Garble, Chrysalis, and depending on what happens this season, either Cozy Glow or Naysayer, depending on what happens. I mean, the potential is there for any kind of villains to come forward. Some people talk about Sombra. Well, here's the thing. We don't know about Sombra's future. Unless the voice actor of Sombra comes out and says, hey, Sombra is coming back, then we don't know yet. For all we know, the comic served as a sequel to the Crystal Empire Season 3 pilot, or Season 3 premiere, I should say. And in the sequel, in that comic book sequel, he was redeemed. He was redeemed. He was given a second chance. So whether or not they want to still keep that connected or not, according to writers, according to what Firebrand Josh Scorcher has said, there is connection and there's no connection between the comics and the show. So Sombra is kind of up in the air. But I definitely think that if you bring Majesty in and you bring her in as sort of this leader that brings all these other antagonistic foes and villains that have been foiled and defeated by the main 6, main 7, that could work. Because, like I said, you can have her comprise a team of herself, Chrysalis, Wind Rider, Garble, who else did I say? Cabanero, and possibly, depending on this outcome, Naysayer or Cozy Glow, depending on what happens this season. Or Tyrek, maybe. Maybe she has control over Tyrek, who knows? Lightning Dust. Again, like I said, the potential to bring, let's say, those characters together. Let's say Majesty counts herself, then she brings in Chrysalis, which is 2, Iron Will, which is 3, Garble, which is 4, Wind Rider, which is 5, Cabanero, which is 6, and then maybe Naysayer or Cozy Glow. That makes 7. You equal it out right there. And it would, just imagine the interest fans would have in the final season if now you have this group of antagonistic foes and villains together, just like they were in the comic when they were trying to resurrect King Sombra in that, the very story I just talked about, with him being up in the air as far as his return goes. Imagine a group of those villains led by this new character, this G4 reimagining of a G1 character in Majesty, to go up against the main 6, main 7, to get back at them for what they've done. The potential for intrigue, the potential for interest, the potential to end this series on a final epic note, and a memorable note, is there. It is really there. Now, one villain, of course, people would like to see is Gorgon. I think that's his name, Gorgon. He's kind of that ram-like demon creature from G1. Excuse me. People would like to see him come in because apparently he's more powerful than Tyrek. Or at least he's a more powerful, darker threat. I mean, to have him come in, yeah, I'll be honest, it would be huge. And he'd be a nice final villain for them to defeat or to go up against in the finale, especially if it's a movie finale. It'd be great. I mean, heck, you could tie in Majesty with him and make it reveal that he's been using Majesty to do his bidding, because all she's been trying to do is do what she believes is justice, what she believes is the right thing, but he's been manipulating her. I'm just saying. The possibilities, like I say, are very, very endless. But the potential to have any of those villains that I've mentioned in Rivals and Foes come back, either together as a team thanks to a reimagined G1 character in Majesty, who may, if you want to tie it into this, may also be connected to the G4 interpretation of Gorgon, that ram-like demon creature, would be huge. Would be great. I don't think you would have one single person not want to tune in on a Saturday morning, DVR an episode of season 9. What I'm trying to say is, just trying to think of what I'm saying. Kind of lost my train of thought there. I apologize. But there isn't one person I know of that if they go in that direction, this direction, there's not one person that I know of. There's not one person, in my opinion, as far as the Rift Cafe, Secret Rift Cafe, analysts and community and members and reviewers that would not tune in on a Saturday morning, possibly DVR that episode if they can't see it, and want to watch it and analyze it and review it almost right away if they go in that direction, and the potential last villain and antagonist that the main 6, main 7 would go up against is Gorgon. That would definitely help this series end on an epic, if not a memorable note. Because not only would you have brought this show back somewhat to what some people feel is the status quo, but you have basically allowed this entire franchise that it's based around, that's over 30 plus years old, almost 40 years old in a sense, come full circle by incorporating almost every G1 character, protagonist or antagonist into this current incarnation. I mean, heck, from what I understand in the season 8 premiere, I don't know if they were called this. People are saying they were. You incorporated a G1 version, a G4 version of the Bush Willies. A G4 version of the Bush Willies. What does that tell you? The point I'm trying to get at here in closing is, we truthfully don't know who the villains are going to be, but if who I have mentioned is being considered, maybe talked about, and possibly concepted for this upcoming 9th and final season, if season 9 is the final season, then this show will end on a proper, memorable note. There's no doubt about that. And if we were to be on it, and let's be honest, they could also go in another direction that I mentioned. They could also go and do an animated adaptation of the Nightmare Rarity arc. Think about it. They can end season 8 on a cliffhanger. Think about it this way. For any of you that have seen the X-Men, the 1990s X-Men animated series, go back and watch the Out of the Past two-parter. More specifically, watch the ending of the second part of Out of the Past. Because that basically, because in that scene, Professor X, Charles Xavier, basically says that what they've just went through is only the beginning of something bigger. And as he says this camera pans up into space. You see this like wall of fire. Or you see these words coming straight at the screen, saying, coming soon. And then you see this big wall of fire, and it says, the Phoenix Saga. Imagine, because of what we've already been given so far in just 2 episodes in the 2-part premiere, imagine if Twilight or Celestia says at the end of season 8 that the fight for friendship, the battle for friendship, has just begun. Because if the synopsis for season 8's finale stays true to what it is, and one of the last things they say in celebration though, and you maybe have a scene where Twilight's with her friends, or Celestia's with Twilight and the others along with Luna and Cadence and all that, imagine the reaction people would give if Celestia perhaps says that the battle for friendship in Equestria has just, or Twilight or Celestia says the fight for friendship, or the battle and fight to protect Equestria has just begun, and the camera kind of slowly pans across the main 7, and then as it slowly pans, it stops right at Rarity. It stops right at Rarity when Celestia or Twilight says, the fight for friendship or the fight to protect Equestria has just begun. Or is just to be that what has happened in that finale, in that season 8 finale, is just the beginning. Imagine the reaction imagine the reaction after the camera pans across the main 7, or at least the main 6 of the main 7, slowly pans across them, right to Rarity. And it kind of zooms in on her, and you kind of have this picture, and it kind of zooms in on her a little bit, because you get this idea, or this feeling, that Celestia or Twilight's looking straight at her when they say that this is only the beginning, or that the fight for friendship has just begun, or this is only the beginning in protecting Equestria. Imagine the reaction people would get that as soon as you zoom in on Rarity after panning across and stopping right at her, and you kind of maybe show Celestia Twilight speaking almost directly to her, and then all of a sudden you zoom up and you get something similar to what they did at the end of Out of the Past, and it says, coming next season, Nightmare Rarity, or the Nightmare Rarity Saga. Imagine fans' reactions knowing they would get that antagonist from one of the most talked about comic book arcs, not just in MLP, not just in IDW, but in all of comics in the past, several years. Imagine people's reactions and anticipation to that starting off season 9. That there, if you pretty much hint at the end of season 8 that that's a villain you're going to be getting to start off season 9, people are going to go nuts. They are going to go crazy. And like I said, if you think the other way that I mentioned potentially could have people tuning in on Saturday mornings, DVRing every episode of season 9 because they don't want to miss it, and if they're an analysis or reviewer, they're going to automatically want to talk about it. This here, if they go this route for a villain, at least to start off season 9, that would just be icing on the cake. That would just be more icing, more frosting on that 7-layer, 10-layer cake of epicness, of anticipation, of hypeness, because pretty much you'd be hinting already at what villain is coming in season 9. So anyway though, overall, we won't really know who our true antagonist is until at least season 9, or at least until they do, or unless they do something like what I mentioned. We won't know till then. So that's really all I could say. I mean, I can't say any more than that. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think down below. What do you think of the possibility of who the villains could be? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd like to hear from each and every one of you. And I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care. But yes, I would like to hear from you. And if you're going to BabsCon this year, have fun and be safe. Peace out and God bless.